If the only prayer you ever say in your entire life is thank you, that will suffice. Those are the words of Meister Eckhart. He was a 13th century mystic, theologian, author, teacher, etc. Um, if the only prayer you ever say is thank you, that will be enough. And there's a really powerful idea behind that, and Meister Eckhart was not incorrect. The talk today is the gratitude step, which is playing on gratitude and the fact that Thanksgiving is coming up this week. And also that the gratitude step is the second to last prayer, or second to last step in a practical prayer. We just make reference to Meister Eckhart, and the late medieval ages. He was this mystic. He was a Catholic priest, and as sometimes happens with people who are in the religion and spirit business, he got some bigger ideas than the tradition that he was part of, and the charges of heresy were actually not completed until after his death. So the Pope didn't convict him while he was alive. But he's another one of those troublemakers. And as far as I'm concerned, those troublemakers are friends of ours, because it is the people who have an idea that goes against the grain, who say, there's something bigger going on here. There's something more profound and more important going on here. And let's open to that possibility rather than be limited to or restricted by doctrine or by what somebody else says. So as I mentioned, the gratitude step is the second to last step in a practical prayer. The last step is release as we speak our word into that creative law and let it do its thing. Interestingly, the gratitude step is the only one that you could feel physically in your body. You can have a feeling of gratitude. The other steps, not so much. It's also, as I mentioned, the only one that has a holiday named after it. Thanksgiving is the only holiday that's the same name as one of the steps in a practical prayer. And as we go into this holiday week, we can use that as a reminder of our spiritual nature, and to remember, instead of just this is about turkey dressing and cranberries and watching football games and parades and stuff, it is a reminder of that experience of gratitude. So let's do a little exercise. As you're comfortable, as it's safe to do so, close your eyes, go to a soft focus, and be present physically in your body. I want to let go of all the stuff that's going on around you. There's been a lot to think about, a lot to consider, a lot to enjoy this morning. And we get to just be present right here and right now. And you may want to bring to mind something that makes you feel grateful, something that you're thankful to have in your life or available to you. Take a deep breath in and feel that feeling of gratitude. Let it anchor. And breathe out and just relax. And notice where in your body you are feeling that feeling of gratitude. It shows up in different places for different people. Some people, it's in our chest, touches our heart, that feeling of gratitude. Some of it's lower down, it's in our gut. We feel that thankfulness deep within. Some people feel gratitude in our throat. It makes our throat clench up. For some people, it's behind the eyes. We well up with tears of gratitude. And sometimes it moves around. Sometimes it's possible for a feeling of gratitude to be overwhelming and show up in multiple parts of our body at the same time. Take another deep breath in and let yourself be completely filled with the feeling of gratitude. A deep breath out, relax into it. That exhale lets go of things that are not like it, and also stimulates our vagus nerve, which makes us feel comfortable and relaxed. Continue breathing in at whatever pace is comfortable for you. If you like, you can return your attention to the world around you, open your eyes. As I point out to you that when you're feeling gratitude, you're not feeling anger. We can't feel angry and grateful at the same time. We also cannot feel like we're taking control. and grateful at the same time. Gratitude is about being in the flow and being in the process. Control is about managing our situations and our circumstances. If you're comfortable, go ahead and make a fist. Clench down really tight. Feel how tightly you can grip, how tightly you can be in control. And then open, release. Let yourself feel grateful. And relax into gratitude, because that gratitude is always available. And that's a reminder that gratitude is always available. In Thessalonians 5:18, it says, "In all things give thanks." In all things give thanks. It then goes on to explain that Jesus is the reason that you should do that. And we'll just go with the first part of it. In all things give thanks. And some people say, oh, that's flowery and nice. And some people think, all things? All things? What do you mean? My friend has COVID. It's the first of the month coming up. There's going to be one of those Thanksgiving dinners with family members who disagree with me. There's likely to be arguments and fights and drama. What do you mean in all things give thanks? Well, it doesn't say for all things give thanks. It says in all things give thanks. And that is a reminder that when we adopt that position of being in a place of gratitude, that when we put ourselves in a tendency towards that feeling of thankfulness, it changes the way that we interact with the world. My friend Sam Brown, wonderful practitioner, grew up in Philadelphia, used the Philadelphia accent and described it as an attitude of gratitude. And that attitude of gratitude is about all things. The gratitude step is about being ready to step forward in gratitude in all circumstances at every moment. Just to go over it for the folks who are either joining us for the first time or need a refresher. Practical prayer is either 5 or 7 steps. The classic 5. The first step, after we know what it is that we want to bring into our life, what the prayer is going to be about, is we turn our attention away from the world around us to that infinite creative power, that one divine presence that we call God or Spirit or nature or the Big Bang or the happy coincidence, or my friend PJ calls it George. And whatever it is that we consider to be that creative force that has been creating everything and continues to do so. So our first step is to turn away from the circumstances in the world around us and open ourselves up to the awareness of the infinite. The second step is to realize that since that creative power has created everything, it has created me as well. So it's not me over here and the infinite out there. That divine power and presence is within. That creative power is working in my life now. That limitless love is flowing through me. So the second step is that unification step where we acknowledge and claim and realize and affirm that we are part of that infinite creative power. And the third step, our realization step, is the same as an affirmation, where we claim the good that we're seeking. I am prosperous. I am loved. I am peaceful. I am happy. And we're making that claim, and it might be something that's been close to our experience in the past, and it might be something that seems like it's really far off, but we are inviting a new experience. And that claim has power. That claim is activating the same creative law that creates everything, going all the way back to the beginning, when the infinite started creating everything in the universe, sharing itself as either the Big Bang or letting there be light. And once you've made a claim, a very certain, positive, affirmative claim of the good that's coming into your life, what else is there to feel but gratitude? And the interesting thing is that in this case, the fourth step, the next to last step in the prayer, doesn't matter what we're grateful for, what we're grateful about. We can be grateful because we remember the steps in the prayer. We can be grateful to be part of this creative process. We can be grateful for the good that's coming into our lives. It doesn't matter what we're grateful for. In all things, give thanks. And that's what we're doing, is we're being in that place of thankfulness. Thankfulness to be in this process, to be aware of this process, to be able to co-create with that infinite creative power. And that divine power is creating something new for us. The last step is the release step. Once we have settled into this place of gratitude, accepting the gift that we've claimed in the third step there, we let it go. we are not doing the work. We are allowing that infinite creative power to continue the job and create something new and wonderful for us, and as us, and through us. The other two steps that sometimes come along is after you get to the affirmation, you say, I am prosperous, and a little voice comes up and says, yeah, but there's no money in the bank. We say, I am prosperous, and it says, yeah, but the credit cards are maxed out. The first of the month is coming up. If there's a doubt, if there's hesitation, if there's pushback, if the claim is, I am in my perfect, wonderful, loving relationship, and the little voice says, yeah, but you still feel this way. What we want to do is we want to counter that. We want to meet that and refute it, because that's certainly a symptom. That's something that's shown up in our life, but it's not the truth. That's not that bright light of the divine shining. So the step after that is to reclaim, to reassert. So we do is that voice says it's not true. We say, the thought that it's not true is preposterous. The shadow that I'm seeing, that's whatever it is that's obstructing this bright light of divine love, there's no power to it. It's temporary, and it's returning to the nothingness that it came from. There is no need for me to be impoverished. There is no reason that I have to be unhappy. There is certainly the possibility for this goodness. And then we repeat the affirmation. I am prosperous. I have plenty of money to meet all of my obligations and live comfortably. I have my perfect, wonderful, loving relationships, etc. And then we go into the gratitude step. Grateful for the good that's already unfolding through us and for us and as us. And the cool thing about the gratitude step, when we adopt an attitude of gratitude, when we keep ourselves in that space of thanksgiving, when we are living what some people would describe as a prayerful life, it changes the ground. It changes the atmosphere in which we're living. And then things get to happen that may go beyond what we would expect. So there's a minister by the name of Stretton Smith who was living out in California. He started out, I think, being a Methodist, and then he switched over to New Thought. He was a Unity minister for a good long time. And his life's work is a program called 4T, Tithing of Time, Talent, and Treasure. And it's a prosperity class, and he was very successful with it. And my favorite story in that, because in that class, it basically takes the students in 12 weeks through a process of claiming their prosperity, our prosperity, and being in the flow of prosperity all the time. And there's some very powerful techniques that are in there. And the transformation that happens, it's the usual things that you would experience in a spiritual class that has to do with affirmations, but it also has to do with surrender, and it has to do with letting go, and it has to do a lot with forgiveness. And it's all about cultivating a spiritual framework for our lives and living in that space of gratitude. And Stretton Smith, I'm pretty sure, was living in a space where in all things he was giving thanks. And my favorite story in the class is that he had suffered from tinnitus, ringing in the ears. And it was something that bothered him for his entire life. And finally, and it took a long time to get to this, finally he came to that realization similar to what was in the reading about Myrtle Fillmore, blessing every cell in her body and recovering from tuberculosis. What he said was, "Thank you, God, for removing the ringing in my ears." And it stopped. And it never came back. He did a thank you prayer. He said, "Thank you, God, for removing the ringing in my ears." And I've been working with something similar to that for myself lately, and it hasn't shown up completely yet. And so I get to dive into, where am I in my space of gratitude? Where am I in that relationship? For me, when he says, "Thank you, God, for this," initially that makes me think that's putting God outside of me someplace. But clearly it worked for Stretton Smith, so I'm working on what that means for him and what that means for me, and how I can connect with that infinite creative power that's creating all of the good and be in gratitude for the good that I'm seeking in my life, and open the channel and let that goodness flow in. It is possible for all of us to cultivate that attitude of gratitude, to be doing that gratitude step all the time, and to participate in bringing something new and wonderful into our lives. If it doesn't work at first, it's not because you don't deserve it. If it doesn't work at first, it's not because the system doesn't work. If it doesn't work at first, it's because we need to work it a little bit more. Perhaps there's something else that we get to bring to it. Perhaps there's a different perspective. Perhaps there's a little yeah but objection to our affirmation that's so quiet that we're hardly hearing it. But if we don't believe that it's true, then we can just go along with the belief that it's not true, and that's what we're going to experience. In all things, give thanks. And as we go into this Thanksgiving week, every time somebody says Thanksgiving to you, think of gratitude instead of holiday turkeys and getting the free butterball because you bought enough stuff at the Acme. See what happens. See if that changes your perspective. And do remember that if the only prayer you ever say is thank you, that will suffice. You're a blessing. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I love you.